Breaking news alert: Galactic Central Network Priority 1 broadcast. This is Nexus Prime Broadcasting, bringing you live coverage from the Central Justice Square on Viridian Prime. I am lead anchor Sarn Blackscale, and we are moments away from what many are calling the most significant execution in the history of the Galactic Confederation. The massive screens floating above the gathered crowds showed the same scene being broadcast to trillions across known space. A human female, stripped of her military regalia but standing tall, despite her bonds, was being led to the quantum gallows. Her silver hair caught the light of Viridian's three suns, creating an almost ethereal glow around her head. For those just joining our broadcast, human Admiral Jessica Warren was found guilty of crimes against galactic peace after her fleet engaged and destroyed 3 Confederation peacekeeping vessels in the disputed Omega sector. The human claims of self-defense were unanimously rejected by the High Council. The crowd's anticipation was palpable. Beings of all species had gathered to witness this historic moment. The Arcturian delegates chittered excitedly among themselves, their bioluminescent patches pulsing with barely contained glee. The Zentari representatives maintained their typical stoic facade, but their third eyes betrayed their satisfaction. The execution will proceed in accordance with ancient law. My voice continued professionally, though I confess my inner membranes quivered with excitement. The quantum gallows will ensure a swift and painless death, as mandated by the galactic humanitarian codes. Admiral Warren reached the platform. The guards, towering Praxian warriors in ceremonial armor, positioned her beneath the quantum field generator. The human showed no fear, no remorse, no sign of breaking. Instead, she smiled. That smile would haunt me for cycles to come. Wait, my producer buzzed in my earpiece. We're receiving a transmission from the human. The council has granted her right of final words. The square fell silent as Warren's voice, clear and unwavering, rang out across the gathering. You think this is your victory, she said, her eyes scanning the crowd. You believe that by ending my life, you send a message to humanity. You're right about the message part. She paused, that unnerving smile growing wider. But you got the message wrong. Before anyone could process her words, the quantum field activated. In an instant, Admiral Jessica Warren ceased to exist in our dimension. The crowd erupted in cheers, celebration pods launching into the air, releasing clouds of euphoric spores. I was about to transition to our panel of experts when my producer's voice cut in again, this time with an edge of panic. Breaking news. We're receiving reports of human ships jumping into systems across the Confederation. Thousands of them. By the ancient ones, they're everywhere. The celebration pods, still hanging in the air, suddenly seemed less festive and more like harbingers of doom. My secondary heart began to race as data streamed across my info lenses. The numbers couldn't be right. The humans weren't supposed to have this many ships. Their fleet registry clearly showed. A deafening boom shook the square as the sky above Viridian Prime lit up with the telltale flashes of ships dropping out of hyperspace. The massive screens showing the execution replay flickered and died. In their place, a single message appeared, broadcast on every frequency, in every language. You took one of ours. We're coming for all of yours. This is not war. This is retribution. The message was signed simply Humanity United. As panic began to spread through the crowd, I couldn't help but remember Warren's smile. She knew. She knew this would happen. The execution wasn't a victory for the Confederation. It was a trigger, carefully planned and perfectly executed. This is Sarn Blackscale, reporting live from what may be the last peaceful moment in Confederation history. May the Ancient Ones have mercy on us all. Emergency session recording Grand Council Chamber. Security level maximum. Timestamp 6 hours post-execution. The Grand Council Chamber, normally a pinnacle of order and decorum, had descended into chaos. Hundreds of representatives from across the Confederation shouted over each other, their voices echoing off the crystalline dome above. Supreme Chancellor Rax Voss slammed his gravity gavel repeatedly, the sonic booms finally bringing some semblance of quiet. Order. The emergency session of the Grand Council will come to order. His voice, amplified by both technology and natural resonance, silenced the last murmurs. Ambassador Thex of the Strategic Committee has the floor. Ambassador Thex, his usually pristine blue scales now dulled with stress, activated his hover platform. As he rose above the gathering, the holographic displays around him flickered to life, showing real-time battle maps of Confederation space. Esteemed colleagues, he began, his voice trembling. In the 6 hours since Admiral Warren's execution, we have confirmed human fleet activities in 78 systems. Our initial estimates of their military capability were incorrect. The word incorrect hung in the air like a toxic cloud. A Medusan representative's hair tentacles writhed in agitation. Incorrect. You assured this council that humanity's entire fleet numbered less than 500 vessels. Ix's scales rippled with embarrassment. The ships we monitored were merely their visible forces. We never imagined, never suspected. He swallowed hard. The human ships appearing now utilize technology we've never seen before. They're completely invisible to our standard detection methods. The chamber erupted again. Chancellor Voss didn't bother with the gavel this time. His attention was fixed on the main entrance, where the human diplomatic delegation was entering. The crowd fell silent as Ambassador Sarah Blackwood, flanked by her staff, walked to the center of the chamber. Blackwood wore traditional human diplomatic black, but with a new addition, a silver pin bearing Admiral Warren's rank insignia. Her face showed no anger, no grief, only a cold determination that sent shivers through the assembled representatives. The Human Confederation thanks the Council for granting us this final audience, she said, her voice carrying naturally through the hushed chamber. We came only to deliver our response to today's events. Chancellor Voss leaned forward. Ambassador Blackwood, surely we can discuss this reasonably. The execution was carried out in accordance with our laws. Your laws. Blackwood's laugh was sharp enough to cut Dura steel. You executed a human officer who was defending Earth-aligned ships from pirates. You refused to examine the evidence. You denied her right to human legal representation. And now you want to talk about laws. She reached into her pocket and removed a small data crystal. With deliberate slowness, she placed it on the central platform. This contains the names of every Confederation official who voted for Admiral Warren's execution, every judge who refused to hear her appeals, every bureaucrat who expedited her death warrant. The crystal pulsed with a soft blue light as she continued. These names are now known to every human ship captain currently in Confederation space. They have their orders. A Zentari counselor lurched to his feet. This is an outrage. You dare to threaten us? Here. Threatened. Blackwood's smile was eerily reminiscent of Warren's final one. No, counselor. A threat implies uncertainty. This is a promise. She turned to address the entire chamber. Humanity spent the last 50 years playing nice. We joined your Confederation. We followed your rules. We trusted your justice. Her voice hardened. That ends today. The human delegation hereby announces our immediate withdrawal from the Confederation. We suggest you spend your remaining time evacuating the systems we're about to reclaim. As the delegation turned to leave, Chancellor Voss made one final attempt. Ambassador, the Confederation has stood for 10,000 years. You cannot simply watch us. Blackwood called over her shoulder. The chamber doors sealed behind her with a final, devastating click. In the silence that followed, the battle displays told their own story. Human ships were appearing everywhere, materializing like ghosts from the void. Trade routes were being severed. Strategic choke points were falling into human hands. And on every Confederation command channel, the same message played on repeat: you took one of ours. Ambassador Thex's hover platform slowly descended as the magnitude of their miscalculation became clear. They had based their actions on decades of human compliance, mistaking patience for weakness. They had seen humanity's visible fleet and assumed they knew humanity's strength. They had executed one human admiral, thinking it would cement their authority. Instead, they had sparked a war they weren't prepared to fight. Chancellor, a junior aide, whispered urgently, "We're receiving reports from the outer colonies. The humans. They're not just targeting military installations. They're systematically hunting down everyone on that list." Chancellor Voss stared at the data crystal still pulsing on the central platform. In its soft blue light, he saw the end of everything they had built. They had wanted to make an example of Admiral Warren. Instead, they had given humanity its martyr, and in doing so, they had signed their own death warrants. The gravity gavel slipped from his fingers, its impact on the floor echoing like a funeral bell through the silent chamber. Emergency session recording Grand Council chamber. Security level maximum. Time stamp 6 hours post-execution. The Grand Council chamber, normally a pinnacle of order and decorum, had descended into chaos. Hundreds of representatives from across the Confederation shouted over each other, their voices echoing off the crystalline dome above. Supreme Chancellor Rax Voss slammed his gravity gavel repeatedly, the sonic booms finally bringing some semblance of quiet. Order. The emergency session of the Grand Council will come to order. His voice, amplified by both technology and natural resonance, silenced the last murmurs. Ambassador Thex of the Strategic Committee has the floor. Ambassador Thex, his usually pristine blue scales now dulled with stress, activated his hover platform. As he rose above the gathering, the holographic displays around him flickered to life, showing real-time battle maps of Confederation space. Esteemed colleagues, he began, his voice trembling. In the 6 hours since Admiral Warren's execution, we have confirmed human fleet activities in 78 systems. Our initial estimates of their military capability were incorrect. The word incorrect hung in the air like a toxic cloud. A Medusan representative's hair tentacles writhed in agitation. Incorrect. You assured this council that humanity's entire fleet numbered less than 500 vessels. X's scales rippled with embarrassment. The ships we monitored were merely their visible forces. We never imagined, never suspected. He swallowed hard. The human ships appearing now utilize technology we've never seen before. They're completely invisible to our standard detection methods. The chamber erupted again. Chancellor Voss didn't bother with the gavel this time. His attention was fixed on the main entrance, where the human diplomatic delegation was entering. The crowd fell silent as Ambassador Sarah Blackwood, flanked by her staff, walked to the center of the chamber. Blackwood wore traditional human diplomatic black, but with a new addition, a silver pin bearing Admiral Warren's rank insignia. Her face showed no anger, no grief, only a cold determination that sent shivers through the assembled representatives. The Human Confederation thanks the Council for granting us this final audience, she said, her voice carrying naturally through the hushed chamber. We came only to deliver our response to today's events. Chancellor Voss leaned forward. Ambassador Blackwood, surely we can discuss this reasonably. The execution was carried out in accordance with our laws. Your laws? Blackwood's laugh was sharp enough to cut Dura steel. You executed a human officer who was defending Earth-aligned ships from pirates. You refused to examine the evidence. You denied her right to human legal representation. And now you want to talk about laws. She reached into her pocket and removed a small data crystal. With deliberate slowness, she placed it on the central platform. This contains the names of every Confederation official who voted for Admiral Warren's execution, every judge who refused to hear her appeals, every bureaucrat who expedited her death warrant. The crystal pulsed with a soft blue light as she continued. These names are now known to every human ship captain currently in Confederation space. They have their orders. A Zentari counselor lurched to his feet. This is an outrage. You dare to threaten us? Here. Threatened. Blackwood's smile was eerily reminiscent of Warren's final one. No, counselor. A threat implies uncertainty. This is a promise. She turned to address the entire chamber. Humanity spent the last 50 years playing nice. We joined your Confederation. We followed your rules. We trusted your justice. Her voice hardened. That ends today. The human delegation hereby announces our immediate withdrawal from the Confederation. We suggest you spend your remaining time evacuating the systems we're about to reclaim. As the delegation turned to leave, Chancellor Voss made one final attempt. Ambassador, the Confederation has stood for 10,000 years. You cannot simply. Watch as Blackwood called over her shoulder. The chamber doors sealed behind her with a final, devastating click. In the silence that followed, the battle displays told their own story. Human ships were appearing everywhere, materializing like ghosts from the void. Trade routes were being severed. Strategic choke points were falling into human hands. And on every Confederation command channel, the same message played on repeat: "You took one of ours." Ambassador Thex's hover platform slowly descended as the magnitude of their miscalculation became clear. They had based their actions on decades of human compliance, mistaking patience for weakness. They had seen humanity's visible fleet and assumed they knew humanity's strength. They had executed one human admiral, thinking it would cement their authority. Instead, they had sparked a war they weren't prepared to fight. Chancellor, a junior aide, whispered urgently, "We're receiving reports from the outer colonies. The humans. They're not just targeting military installations. They're systematically hunting down everyone on that list." Chancellor Voss stared at the data crystal still pulsing on the central platform. In its soft blue light, he saw the end of everything they had built. They had wanted to make an example of Admiral Warren. Instead, they had given humanity its martyr, and in doing so, they had signed their own death warrants. The gravity gavel slipped from his fingers, its impact on the floor echoing like a funeral bell through the silent chamber. Confederation Military Command. Priority Alert Log. Location: Centauri Defense Hub. Time: 12 hours post-execution. Fleet Commander Dax Ravencrest watched in horror as another defensive line collapsed. The humans weren't fighting like any species he'd encountered in his 300 cycles of service. They weren't following any known military doctrine. Their attacks made no strategic sense, until suddenly, terribly, they did. "Sir, Outpost 7 has gone dark." Lieutenant Kira's tentacles twisted in distress as she processed incoming data. The human ships, they appeared inside the station's shields. Ravencrest's primary heart nearly stopped. Inside? That's impossible. The phase barriers. "Confirmed, sir," another officer shouted. "They're using some kind of quantum tunneling technology. Our shields are useless." The massive command center's holographic displays showed the unfolding catastrophe. Humanity's hidden fleet wasn't just big, it was devastating. Ships appearing from nowhere, striking with surgical precision, then vanishing again. No wasted movements, no military posturing, no demands for surrender. Just cold, efficient destruction. "Show me the Arcturus sector," Ravencrest ordered, trying to find some pattern in the chaos. The display shifted, revealing an even more disturbing scene. Human vessels were targeting very specific installations while leaving others completely untouched. They were following some kind of plan, but what? "Sir, intercepted communication from human vessel designation Warren's wake," Lieutenant Kira announced. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Should I?" "Play it," Ravencrest commanded, bracing himself. A human voice, calm and clinical, filled the command center. "All Confederation forces. Your shields cannot protect you. Your walls cannot hide you. Every person who signed Admiral Warren's death warrant will be found. Every facility that processed her execution order will be destroyed. Every system that celebrated her death will burn. This is not a warning. This is not a negotiation. This is humanity, unchained." Ravencrest felt his scales grow cold. He had fought in dozens of campaigns, faced countless enemies, but this was different. The humans weren't trying to conquer territory or gain strategic advantages. This was vengeance, calculated and precise, delivered with terrifying efficiency. "New contacts," the sensor officer's voice cracked with panic. "Massive energy signatures. By the Ancient Ones, they're everywhere." The main display erupted with new contact markers as humanity's true fleet revealed itself. The ships were unlike anything in Confederation records. Sleek, dark vessels that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. No visible weapon ports, no standard engine configurations, nothing that matched known shipbuilding principles. "Sir, analysis of their attack patterns," Strategic Officer Nex reported, her cybernetic eye whirring as it processed data. "They're not just striking military targets, they're systematically dismantling our entire command structure. Communication hubs, supply lines, leadership bunkers. They knew where everything was. They've had these plans for years." The realization hit Ravencrest like a plasma bolt. They've been preparing for this since the day they joined the Confederation. Everything, their compliance, their transparency, their cooperation. It was all reconnaissance. A new alarm blared, and the command center's lights shifted to deep red. Lieutenant Kira's voice trembled as she reported, multiple quantum signatures detected within this facility. They're here. Seal all bulkheads, Ravencrest ordered. Initiate security protocols. Sir Nex interrupted, her cybernetic eye fixed on her display. I've cross-referenced the attack patterns with the execution authorization list. This facility. We processed Admiral Warren's transfer orders. Before Ravencrest could respond, the air itself seemed to tear open. Dark shapes emerged from the quantum breaches, human soldiers in armor that seemed to bend light around them. Their weapons made no sound, but Confederation personnel began dropping silently, efficiently. All hands, abandoned facility, Ravencrest shouted into the general comm. Get to the escape pods, get to. A figure materialized directly in front of him, helmet retracting to reveal a human face. The name tag read Captain Marcus Warren. Admiral Warren was my mother, the human said quietly. She spoke highly of your tactical abilities, Commander Ravencrest. Said you were one of the few who voted against her execution. Ravencrest stood straighter, preparing to meet his end with dignity. I served the Confederation, but I know an innocent officer when I see one. Your mother was a warrior worthy of respect. Marcus nodded slowly. That's why you get to live, Commander. Someone needs to tell them what happened here. Someone needs to explain why they lost. The human raised his hand, and Ravencrest felt a strange tingling sensation. The last thing he saw before the quantum teleport took him to an escape pod was his command center dissolving in silent, precise destruction. Not one stray shot, not one unnecessary casualty, not one wasted movement. As his pod ejected into space, Ravencrest watched the massive defense hub, pride of the Confederation fleet, crack apart like an egg. The human ships moved with practiced precision, as if they had rehearsed this attack 1,000 times. Perhaps they had. In the distance, more quantum ruptures appeared as the human fleet continued its inexorable advance. They had assumed humanity's ships numbered in the hundreds. Now he watched as thousands upon thousands of vessels emerged from their quantum shrouds, each one a harbinger of the Confederation's miscalculation. The humans hadn't just been hiding their true strength. They had been planning this moment for 50 years, learning every weakness, mapping every vulnerability, preparing for the day the Confederation finally gave them a reason to strike. And in executing Admiral Warren, the Confederation had given them the perfect reason. Encrypted personal log. I, Admiral Thax Nightweaver. Status final entry. Location Supreme Military Command Center, Arcturus Prime. Time 24 hours post-execution. From the Warren Protocol. That's what they called it. Such a simple name for the most devastating military strategy ever conceived. As I record this log from my burning command center, I finally understand the true scope of our failure. The data streams flowing across my neural interface paint a picture of absolute destruction. Not chaos, not random violence, but a perfectly orchestrated symphony of retribution. Each human ship knows its exact purpose. Each target has been studied and analyzed years in advance. Each strike calculated to cause maximum damage with minimum waste. High Admiral General Kara rushes into my office, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with terror. We've decoded part of the human battle communications. Sir, you need to see this. The holographic display flickers to life, showing fragments of intercepted human tactical data. My third heart nearly stops as I process what I'm seeing. Every ship in their fleet is running on quantum AI systems far beyond our technology. These IIs were apparently designed by Admiral Warren herself, each one containing a piece of her tactical brilliance. Sir, there's more. Kara continues, her voice shaking. The protocol. It's not just a battle plan. It's a complete dismantling strategy for the entire Confederation. Warren spent her entire career mapping our weaknesses, preparing contingencies, placing sleeper agents. A distant explosion rocks the command center. Through my window, I watch as another defense platform crumbles silently in space. The humans don't even bother broadcasting demands anymore. They know we have nothing to negotiate with. Show me the strategic overview, I command, and the holographic display expands to show the full scope of the human advance. It's beautiful, in a terrifying way. Their fleet movements form intricate patterns, each strike supporting 3 others, every retreat opening up new angles of attack. According to the decoded data Kara reports, Admiral Warren called this the shattered mirror strategy. Each human task force operates independently, but in perfect coordination with the others. If we manage to stop one attack, 2 more hit us from different directions. Another explosion, closer this time. The command center's shields flicker and die. Through the quantum static, I catch glimpses of human ships appearing and disappearing, moving through space like water through a sieve. Our most advanced sensor systems can't track them. Our strongest shields can't stop them. Our fastest ships can't catch them. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship," my communication officer announces. It's Admiral Warren's daughter, Rebecca Warren. I remember Rebecca. She served as a diplomatic attaché on my station 5 years ago. Always smiling, always asking questions about our defense systems. We thought she was just being friendly. "Put her through," I order. The holographic display shifts, showing a human female in a black uniform adorned with silver tracings. Her mother's eyes stare back at me. "Hi, Admiral Thax," she says, almost gently. "I wanted you to understand before the end. This protocol, it wasn't just my mother's work. Every human in Confederation space has been preparing for this day. Every trade agreement we signed, every cultural exchange we participated in, every joint military exercise we conducted. It was all reconnaissance." My scales ripple with cold realization. The technology sharing programs were carefully calculated to show you exactly what we wanted you to see. Rebecca finishes. "You thought you were studying us, analyzing our capabilities. In reality, we were learning everything about you. Your tactics, your technology, your psychology. Mother called it hiding in plain sight." Through the command center's windows, I watch as more human ships emerge from quantum space. Their formations are perfect, their coordination flawless. Each vessel moves like part of a vast machine, all guided by the digital echoes of Jessica Warren's tactical genius. "The trial," I whisper, finally understanding. "Your mother's behavior during the trial. She barely defended herself." Rebecca's smile is a mirror of her mother's final expression. The trial was part of the protocol too. Every word she spoke, every piece of evidence she chose not to present, every appeal she deliberately lost, it was all designed to make you overconfident, to make you think you had won. The command center's emergency lights flash red as more hull breaches are detected. In the distance, I can see human boarding craft appearing inside our defensive perimeter. Their quantum drives let them ignore our strongest barriers, bypassing billions of credits worth of defensive systems like they don't even exist. "Why are you telling me this?" I ask, even as I know the answer. "Because Mother respected you," Rebecca replies. "She said you were the only one who saw through the deception, even if you couldn't prove it. That's why you get to know the truth. The Warren Protocol isn't just about winning a war, High Admiral. It's about making sure the Confederation understands exactly how completely they were outplayed." The transmission ends as human troops quantum shift directly into my office. Their armor seems to bend light around them, making them look like living shadows. I recognize their leader from intelligence briefings, Commander James Marshall, another former diplomatic attaché, another spy who served on my station, gathering data, preparing for this moment. "Your security codes, High Admiral," he says professionally. "Please." As I transmit the codes, I realize this too is part of the protocol. They don't need to torture us for information. They don't need to threaten or negotiate. They already know everything. They just want us to acknowledge our defeat by surrendering it willingly. A quantum field surrounds me as the human troops prepare for extraction. Commander Marshall's last words echo in my mind as the field engages. Admiral Warren sends her regards. The Warren Protocol wasn't just a contingency plan. It was humanity showing us who they really were. After 50 years of letting us believe we had them figured out, we thought we were the sophisticated ones, the advanced civilization teaching younger races about galactic society. Instead, we were the students all along, and we failed the final exam. Emergency broadcast transcript. Confederation Central News Network. time 72 hours post-execution. This is Sarn Blackscale reporting from an undisclosed location as the human offensive enters its 4th day. The Supreme Council has authorized me to confirm that negotiations with human forces have failed. My voice trembles slightly as I read the approved script. Through the hastily established broadcast center's windows, I can see the streams of refugee ships fleeing toward the Galactic Core. Not that it will help them. Distance means nothing to the humans now. The humans have rejected all attempts at diplomatic resolution. Their only response to peace offerings has been a repeated transmission of Admiral Warren's trial footage, focusing on the council members who dismissed her evidence without review. A brief pause as my producer hands me an update tablet. My outer membrane pales as I read the contents. We are now receiving confirmation that the Praxis defense line has fallen. All 18 fortress worlds, previously considered impregnable, were simultaneously attacked by human forces using previously unknown weapons technology. The entire defensive fleet was. I struggled to maintain professional composure as I read the next part. The entire defensive fleet was neutralized in under 6 minutes. No survivors have been reported. Human ships appeared inside the fortress shields, bypassed all security measures, and systematically disabled every military installation before our forces could even raise their weapons. The broadcast room shakes as something detonates in the distance. Through my earpiece, I hear panicked voices from the station's security team. They're here. Already. How did they find us so quickly? This just in, I continue, knowing these might be my last words on air. The Confederation Science Council has released their analysis of human technology observed during this conflict. What we previously interpreted as irregular fleet movements was actually. My heart skips several beats as I process the information. The humans have apparently mastered quantum space manipulation. Their ships don't travel through space in the conventional sense. They rewrite local space-time at will. Our barriers, our shields, our most advanced defenses, they're as effective as tissue paper against this technology. Another explosion, closer now. The emergency lights flicker on as primary power fails. To all citizens of the Confederation, the Supreme Council has authorized the following statement: all military personnel are ordered to stand down immediately. Do not attempt to resist human forces. I repeat, do not. The door to the broadcast center disintegrates. Human troops walk through, their quantum shift armor making them look like holes in reality itself. Their weapons aren't even raised. They don't need to be. This is Commander Alexandra Stone of the Human Liberation Fleet, one of them announces, removing her helmet. Your broadcast will continue, but now you will read this. She hands me a data tablet. As I read its contents, I understand why the humans let our network continue operating. They want everyone to hear this. To all Confederation citizens, I read, my voice surprisingly steady. What you are witnessing is not merely a military defeat. It is the consequence of actions taken by your leadership. The following data packet contains proof that Admiral Warren's trial was orchestrated. Evidence of her innocence was deliberately suppressed. The attack she allegedly conducted against Confederation vessels was, in fact, a defense against slave traders operating with Council authorization. The human commander nods approvingly as I continue. Furthermore, the Council knew that humanity had been building up its forces. They knew we were developing technologies far beyond Confederation standards. But they believed they could force our compliance through Admiral Warren's execution. They believed we would choose submission over war. A bitter laugh escapes me as I read the next part. The humans don't stop me. The Council was wrong. Humanity didn't build its fleet for war. They built it for this exact moment. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic was designed specifically to dismantle the Confederation's power structure. Admiral Warren's execution wasn't their miscalculation. It was exactly what humanity expected them to do. Through the broken walls of the broadcast center, I watch as more human ships quantum shift into view. They don't bother with traditional fleet formations. They don't need to. Their vessels simply appear where they want them, ignore the laws of physics that our entire civilization is built upon, and reshape reality to suit their purposes. This is not a war. I read the final part of their message. This is a correction. The Confederation's authority ends today. To those who played no part in the corruption, who did not support the Council's actions, you have nothing to fear. To those who voted for death rather than justice, who chose power over truth, the humans have your names. They have always had your names. And they are coming for you. Commander Stone takes the tablet back. Keep broadcasting, she orders, but not unkindly. Show them what's happening. Show them their mighty Confederation crumbling. Show them the price of injustice. And so I do. For hours, I narrate humanity's inexorable advance. I describe how their quantum ships simply ignore our most powerful weapons. I report on how their forces materialize inside our most secure facilities, their armored troops walking through our strongest barriers like they don't exist. The refugee streams grow larger as word spreads. Not just civilians now, but military ships too. Entire battle groups surrendering without firing a shot, their commanders finally understanding the futility of resistance against an enemy that treats our most fundamental laws of physics as mere suggestions. The human advance has reached the Council retreat bunkers on Nexus 9, I report, my voice hoarse after hours of broadcasting. The quantum shields, said to be impenetrable. They didn't even slow the humans down. The Council members who signed Admiral Warren's death warrant are being taken into custody. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, Commander Stone returns with one last tablet. The final statement, she says, "Make it count." I look at the tablet, then back at her. This was never about conquest, was it? She shakes her head. We could have conquered the Confederation any time in the last 20 years. This was about justice, about showing the galaxy that actions have consequences, about teaching a lesson that will never be forgotten. I turn back to my broadcast terminal and read the final message. To all citizens of what was once the Galactic Confederation, the war is over. The Council has surrendered unconditionally. The human quantum fleet has established control over all major systems. Resistance has not only proven futile, it has proven unnecessary. The humans do not want our territories, our resources, or our technology. They wanted only one thing: to ensure that no civilization ever again mistakes patience for weakness or confuses justice with power. Remember this day. Remember Admiral Warren. Remember that sometimes the most dangerous species are the ones who spend 50 years preparing for a war they hope never to fight, but are more than ready to win. Personal log, final entry. Former Supreme Chancellor Rax Voss. Location: New Earth Detention Center. Time: 1 week post-execution. They let us keep our data tablets in detention. A small mercy, perhaps, or more likely another calculated move. They want us to record this. They want future generations to understand exactly what happened when the Confederation made its final fatal mistake. The surrender ceremony was a masterpiece of humiliation through simplicity. No grand speeches, no triumphant declarations. The human representatives simply appeared in our secure bunker, quantum shifting through our most powerful shields like they were walking through an open door. Rebecca Warren led the delegation. She looked so much like her mother that several council members fainted on the spot. She brought only 3 items: the original death warrant for her mother, the data crystal containing the names of everyone involved in the execution, and a single sheet of paper with humanity's terms. The terms were surprisingly brief. 1. The Galactic Confederation, as a governing body, is hereby dissolved. 2. All Confederation military forces will surrender unconditionally. 3. All individuals involved in Admiral Warren's execution will face trial under human law. 4. All slave trading operations, previously sanctioned by council members, will cease immediately. 5. A new galactic assembly will be established, with humanity as its custodians. That last term sparked outrage among the surviving council members. Councillor Thex, his scales nearly white with fury, demanded to know by what right humanity claimed such authority. Rebecca's response chilled my blood vessels. By right of foresight, Counselor. While you spent the last 50 years believing you were civilizing us, we spent that time studying you, learning you, understanding you better than you understand yourselves. She activated a holographic display, showing us the true extent of human technological advancement. The quantum drive ships we'd seen were just the surface. Humanity had developed technologies that made our most advanced achievements look like children's toys. We could have conquered you at any time, she continued. We could have taken your worlds, stripped your resources, enslaved your people, just like some of you did to less advanced races, with council approval, of course. The accusations in the room grew quiet as more data scrolled across our screens. Evidence of corruption, of sanctioned piracy, of slavery operations approved by council members in exchange for profit shares. Humanity hadn't just been building weapons, they'd been gathering evidence. But conquest wasn't our goal, Rebecca explained. Mother believed in justice, not vengeance. The Warren Protocol wasn't designed to destroy the Confederation. It was designed to expose it, to show every species in known space that true civilization isn't about power or technology or age. It's about choices. A human officer, one I recognized as Admiral Marcus Stone, stepped forward with another data tablet. This is a complete technical package of human quantum drive technology, he announced. It will be made freely available to all species, regardless of their previous Confederation status. The implications struck me like a plasma burst. They weren't just displacing us as the dominant power. They were completely rewriting the rules of galactic civilization. Your species were not ready for this technology before, Rebecca continued. Not because you couldn't understand it, but because you would have used it like you used everything else as a tool for maintaining power. Now you'll use it as part of something greater. The new Galactic Assembly, as it turns out, was already prepared. While we cowered in our bunkers, humanity had been meeting with representatives from every species in known space, even the races we deemed too primitive for Confederation membership. The age of the Confederation is over, Rebecca declared. The age of true cooperation begins, not enforced by fear or power, but built on mutual respect and genuine justice. As I write this final log entry, I can see Earth through my cell window. Not the primitive, barely spacefaring world we thought we knew, but humanity's true face, a thriving quantum metropolis that had been hidden behind technological veils for half a century. Ships of all species come and go, their newly installed quantum drives letting them ignore the physical barriers that once divided our civilizations. Former enemies trade openly, former slaves walk as equals, and through it all, human peacekeepers watch with those same knowing smiles we saw on Admiral Warren's face. We thought executing one human would strengthen our authority. Instead, it revealed our weakness. We thought we were teaching humanity about galactic civilization. Instead, they spent 50 years teaching us about justice. And as I watched the former Confederation worlds adapt to this new reality, I finally understand Admiral Warren's last smile. She wasn't facing death. She was witnessing rebirth. The death of the old order and the birth of something new. Something better. They keep her uniform on display in the assembly hall. Not as a symbol of victory or vengeance, but as a reminder. A reminder that true power lies not in the ability to take life, but in the wisdom to know when to hold back, to wait, to plan, and to turn an act of injustice into an opportunity for universal change. The humans have a saying: the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. It took me until now to understand that they weren't just reciting words. They were describing their strategy. They let us believe we were bending them to our will, never realizing they were slowly, patiently, inexorably bending the entire galaxy towards something better. We hanged Admiral Warren to show our power. They let us do it to show us our weakness. And in doing so, they didn't just change the Confederation. They changed everything. Log.